So I'm just doing it live, Suzy. Bear with me.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, so we are live, Suzy. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to all the listeners who are listening to this podcast. Today, we have got a very, very special guest and very, very humble and absolutely an advocate for a cause that is absolutely prime importance to all us as a humans. And it starts not just as an adult or old age, but it starts from childhood since you're born. And that's the critical aspect of his bullying. But she is not going to talk about bullying today. She's an anti-bullying advocate for Australia and New Zealand, and also a brand ambassador for a few products. So she has achieved a lot and she has managed a lot. And as we all humans do something, but the question is, are we talking about it, the good things that we do? Are we talking about the things that we can share? And are we spreading our knowledge and wisdom? And that's today have got the pleasure and a very, very warm welcome to the most absolutely to my favorite person, Suzy Heazlewood. I can say that because I have talked to you before. So
Yes.
it's amazing. And welcome, Suzy, to this podcast today. What we are going to do is about emotional well-being. And
Thanks, Shailesh. Thank you.
yeah. So tell me something about you, a little bit about for the audiences to know what you do, who you are, and all that. And then we can get straight into the experiences and the sharing and the wisdom that you have achieved so far.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for having me here today, Shailesh. I'm pretty passionate about this topic as well. I do have a lot of passion within me, especially to share what's helped me along this journey. I am a mother of 4 amazing adult kids, and I've got 4 grandkids. A wonderful partner, and we live between New Zealand and Australia. And especially grateful to be able to be getting back to Australia now that we can fly again. But for me, my journey as a child, I've always kept active and kept fit. And hence I became a postie at 17. And back in the day, we rode the push bike. So it was a great job for me because fitness was very important to me. And 6 years ago, I'd kept active and, always mind, body and soul, keeping fit and well. 6 years ago, I woke up one day and I couldn't walk. And, my legs were swollen like sumo wrestlers. And ended up in hospital, and they did extensive tests on me, only to discover that I had an autoimmune illness called ankylosing spondylitis.
Wow. Okay.
And that rocked my world, Shailesh, because as someone who'd kept so active, to be told that I would have to go and have 6 months bed rest and could be in a wheelchair and on crutches, it was mortifying. And having gone down the road of being public about being bullied for being on TV, to then wake up. So I dealt with my emotional problems by being public and talking about the bullying. I now had to deal with a physical glitch. And that was a whole nother ball game. They offered me immunosuppressants and steroids, and I was on morphine for quite a while because the pain was that bad. Cut to the chase, I didn't go down the medical route. I ended up choosing to go down my own path. Now, everyone's got their own, this is a disclaimer. I'm not making any false claims here. I'm just saying what worked for me. I have huge compassion for other people with what I've got that are on the immunosuppressants. I understand it. We all make a choice. For me, it was more of a natural road. I've got a daughter who's a naturopath. And she helped me along my road, especially around diet. And so instead of coming home and having 6 months bed rest, I came home and walked. Now, my walking was so slow. A walk that would normally take us an hour took my husband and I 2 hours. But I was determined because this illness is also muscle degenerative, which means that my muscles are going to degenerate faster than a normal person. without ankylosing spondylitis. So
Yeah.
6 years on, I'm walking 20,000 steps a day.
Wow.
It's amazing, and I was determined that I had bet the emotional trauma of the bullying, and I was determined that I was going to walk again. And so, needless to say, I so believe in the correlation of mind, body, and soul, Shailesh.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
believe emotional trauma can trap in the body and create the physical pain.
Yeah, I was about to say that, we had initially like whether which is good or which is first or which is second, whether it is mental, emotional well-being or your body emotional well-being, because body
Yes.
is also a well-being and mind is also in well-being. And then
Yes.
you have got a battle between these two happening because it affects each other. If you are not good in your mindset, it affects your body. It affects
Oh,
your
yes.
eating. It affects your
Yes.
habits. It affects everything,
Everything.
right?
Yeah.
So how did you manage, like, okay, initially you were already into that mental block of pulling and being doing everything right, yet you had that experience and it
Yeah.
was a very daunting and traumatic experience. But then moving away from that, what was your really trigger point or driving that, okay, not going to be what I am here, but I'm going to change my direction? How did you manage that emotional well-being at that point and
Yeah.
moving from there to the
Yeah.
situation what you are in today? So today you
Sure.
have got the body, but you have over a period of time you did had this mental emotional well-being, which is the
Yeah.
main. How did you manage, and what was your driving to really come out of it? What was the positives that you looked at that point?
Sure.
We always
Look,
go into direction as a negative when you are into that situation. We can't think straight. We can't do what we want to do. We don't know what will work for us. And
no.
that's the constant battle of mind is there.
Mm.
How was
Yeah.
what was your really key points that you maintained and managed somehow?
Yeah. Well, when I was being, bullied for being on TV, I actually became suicidal, Shailesh, and so twice I attempted to take my own life. What really saved me was also the support of my family, but also going public in a documentary. I do believe that self-expression and talking about it is a great way to heal yourself. Not only do you help to heal yourself, you can also help others along the journey.
Absolutely.
So I had dealt with a lot of emotional pain. So my life became so polarized. I was so grateful to be alive when I survived it. And I realized that I nearly wasn't going to be here to meet my grandchildren. I nearly left my beautiful family. I was so unwell emotionally.
Yeah.
So when I managed to get on top of that and realized I'm meant to be here, I'm meant to be here.
Yeah.
And then only to then wake up and not be able to walk. I think I had created such an inner strength. Don't get me wrong, it was very hard though, because for someone who had kept physically fit, to wake up and be told that you may not walk and you could be in a wheelchair, it was daunting. I thought my world was over again. But I also vowed I'd never go down the route of ever thinking I didn't belong here again. So I did a lot of research about my particular I don't like to call it an illness. I call it a glitch, because I think
of course
it's a chapter of my life, and I'm working every day. I focus on wellness, not illness. Again, I understand when you get really sick, illness is all you can see, all you can feel.
Exactly.
And I've been there. I've been there where I felt, oh my God, I'm going to be, with crutches or in a wheelchair. So the determination and education around what I had was huge, the mindset.
Yeah, I totally agree with that concept of focusing on the wellness rather than illness, because that's where I was thinking, like when you go into that situation or circumstance, you always think negative, you always think easy way, and the easy way is always not the great way. The hard way is always the good
Yeah.
way, but easy
Yes.
way, I always say that easy way is not the great way.
It's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me something like moving away from that situation of mental health and then living your life, spending your time, and still in the mind, in the inner mind, you will always at the back of reflecting all the time that those things that has happened, and reflecting each time. How did you, like, these are memories that we
Yep.
have
We
automatic.
store them. Yep.
We see them, and
Yeah.
how did you manage those memories, and how did you make new memories to overcome those memories? Because this is something, I personally feel that as an emotional well-being of any
Mm.
person, we are set with memories. And when we are
Yeah.
set with memories, we need, we know we got the ability to create new memories, but we fall into that same old memory
Yep.
and we never come out of it. What
That's
was
right.
that? How did you manage to come out of it? And what?
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm a work in progress because
Sure.
I do have what I call triggers that can cause flare-ups in me
Yeah.
still. So
Mhm.
even though I'm leaps and bounds ahead of where
Mm.
I was,
Yeah.
emotionally and physically,
Yes.
I can still easily be triggered. I feel the pain runs deep, but it's not far from the surface. But
Sure.
instead of seeing that as a negative, Shailesh, I see that as a positive. It's a
Sure.
reminder to
Yes.
let me know I'll never go back there again.
Mm.
I'm every day I'm better than I was the day before. And then sometimes I'll be as I say, I have flare-ups and I might be on the couch because my body is in so much pain, but
Yes.
I'll know I've got the ability, I'll get through it, I'll ride the wave. So for me, it created a resilience in me that I never knew I had.
Yeah.
When you are an empath, the bigger the heart, the harder the hurt. But you also have to have a resilience beside that to know that the storm will pass. It's not going to be forever. And so I've learned to normalize as opposed to catastrophize, because when you find out something, and look, there's always someone worse off out there, and I always say that to myself. But when you find out you've got something that you never dreamed you'd have, it's so easy to catastrophize it as like it's the end of the world. And then when you do catastrophize, you block out what you can have to help create a solution around it. So I tried to normalize it, and slowly but surely my body started to relax. So the inflammation went down, and I realized that I was beginning to heal myself. But also you've got to allow you to lose the fear around pain. I think we fear pain, and that in itself creates more pain. And so I learned to kind of rise above the pain. And I was on morphine for a lot of 2017 because the pain was that bad. And I'm glad to say that I'm not on it now. But I do understand people that have to be on it. It's like a necessary evil. It's provided for the pain. But I've learned to deal with pain in other ways now. For me, movement is my friend. So stiffness, body stiffness, which is part of this glitch I've got. Movement. So when I start stiffening up, I move, I move, and it releases a lot of pain as well, emotional and physical. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's really awesome. That what you said just now, like, movement. You don't want to remain in the same spot. You don't want to remain in the same area, same mindset.
That's right.
So moving is always the great source of motivation and finding and creating new memories and finding new hope. So how and resilient? You said you touched on resilient. Resilient is not very common to all. How that they can do it, but for that you really need a mindset direction to change that everything is going to be temporary, and then decide that we don't have to get stuck into any zone.
And you're right, because as humans we do, as you say, we're creatures of habit. We go back to we go back to, we think there's no hope, and again it's the power of our subconscious mind replacing the negative with something of hope. you know.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I certainly aren't sitting here saying I'm cured.
No,
I'm a work in progress.
work in
And
progress.
even,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I know, like, because in this emotional, when people are addicted to anything, whether food or alcohol or drugs or whatever, or cigarettes,
Yeah,
they even though they have stopped, even though they have taken the path to move away from those and less remove the addiction, still
mm,
they are, I call them, everybody is still under recovering addict. They are not
yeah,
completely gone out of addict, but they are just
100%.
recovering addict,
Yes,
basically. I think once we
yes,
get into one zone, we are always in that mode of work in progress. That's why
yes.
that's why I say sometimes that the life between birth and death, or between appear and disappear, in between is the managing your life journey.
Yeah.
And so to manage that life journey, you have to keep moving
Mm,
rather than saying that I am here only to do this thing or that thing.
yeah,
You are here to do many things,
yeah.
whatever you like. And so if you want to keep your well-being and
Mm,
emotional well-being and mindset very active and very energetic and very motivated, then as you rightly said, that you got to
mm,
keep moving,
yeah,
basically.
you sure
So
do. Yeah.
100% agree. Tell us something about more about, like, how, when you went on, how the positives or the outcome, were you trying to change with an outcome, or you just went along and change yourself every single time without any conditions, or without any, putting yourself that I need this, that's why I'm doing this, or
Yeah.
you just said that I'm going to try this and I want to do this? What is this difference?
Sure.
Mm,
Okay. I did, as I say, I did a lot of research
mm,
and found a lot of natural alternatives
mhm.
to, like, for example, high doses of turmeric. I found
Okay.
out it's a natural source of, is like, has the same kind of result naturally as steroids, you know, and
Mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
making, again, any false claims. That's just what I
Sure.
researched, found, and help with inflammation,
Mm,
and also magnesium. So I did a lot of research about supplementation,
mm,
and which in itself can help as well, especially with what I've got.
mm.
And also, Shailesh, it was more about having some goals, to set
Mhm.
some goals,
Okay.
and to be realistic about it as well. That was 6 years ago that I woke up with that
Right.
prognosis. And within that time,
Mhm.
I've seen myself, it's personal growth as well. And
Right. Okay.
so working on the subconscious mind,
Mm.
again, working on the story I told myself, because I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder in 2014. And that's something where it's a bit fight or flight, where you feel like something bad's going to happen to you, and it's not, but you feel like it's going to happen again.
Mm.
And so working on that again around normalizing, as opposed to catastrophizing, has been huge for me. Because again, when I found out I was had this glitch, I thought my world had ended. That
Mm.
I would, for a split second, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be bedridden. And then
Yeah.
once I thought of that, I thought, no, I'm going to
Mm.
change that path.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a daily effort. My husband had to lift me in and out of the bath. I couldn't move. It was so, I look back now and I can't believe how far I've come from then,
Mhm.
again, but researching what were alternatives, making myself walk every day, whether I liked it or not.
Mhm.
That's just me. I'm a bit like all or nothing about things. So I was
Yeah.
determined. I wasn't going to just let it take over me. I was going to control it.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's definitely. So with this trauma, emotional, with mind, and then health wise, you're physically
Yeah.
getting into this, both like coming together.
Mm,
Have you, at the moment, have you come out of the mindset that you had, or the emotional through the mind, like particularly the bullying that you faced, and then those memories were very bad or unpleasant, I would say, the unpleasant memories.
mm,
Have
yeah.
you come out of those and moved on to some extent, or you are still, as we say, recovering? So are you still recovering, or a work in progress, or what is?
Sure.
What's
Sure.
your take on that?
Yeah, it's such a good question, because, I know I've come a long way, and especially, so I'm a firm believer in self-expression. So I write my thoughts on my photos, like my thoughts on my pics, I call it. So, and also I do a lot of events, Shailesh, where I will support suicide prevention and awareness, as well as anti-bullying. So every time, I had a friend that asked me, Suzy, when you go and do events, do you think they're keeping you stuck? Stuck because you're retelling your story. And I said, that's such a good question. I said, in actual fact, for me, it's all part of my healing process.
Correct. Yeah.
So every time I tell my story, and I can say it without feeling a deep emotion of pain, like when I first started telling it, like when I did the documentary in 2013. Oh my gosh, I look at that documentary and I think, my gosh, that girl was in so much pain. I feel so sad for her. Now I can safely say I can tell my story, and it's almost like I'm telling it about someone else, because I've come so far. Having said that, I can get triggered if I feel a bit unsafe in an environment. But again, I've learned that's about me. A lot of, like, we can only be responsible for ourselves on this journey, and that's a really huge lesson to learn. So as much as we might try and change a situation, the only person we can change is ourselves and our mindset. So having adopted that thought pattern now, I realize if I do feel a trigger, or I feel a little bit unsafe in an environment, and it is predominantly around women, because it was women who abused me. I realize that it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah, exactly.
See what I'm saying? Like, all I'm trying to do is spread love and light where I can. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a saint, but all I'm saying, I'm trying to do good, to share my story so that others that may be in the darkness can see some light. But then if I feel a situation where I'm, again, that fight or flight, I realize that that's about them, not me, because, and I it's such a good thing to come to. I know it's so cliche to say that, but it really does help to remind yourself that when you're around someone that may be, a bit abusive, or not abusive, or a bit trying to put you down,
Yeah, because you will always find those kind of surroundings and humans who wants to put you down, or who wants to say that I'm in control, and who wants to say that you listen whatever I say. And that's where the emotional well-being becomes a big issue, because you always are dependent on others, and you always try to follow others. And this is where then you lose yourself. You lose your own identity, and your
identity
power, and the power that you own and you have, and the skills you have, because you are listening to others. So that's really a sad part of the human journey. But 90% then they realize, and when they realize, sometimes it's too late, or then they have to regret, basically, that they didn't do this and they didn't do that. So coming from far away from this situation, and I mean, for women, or for men, or for anyone, facing these experiences of bullying is always unpleasant, but it gives for some women, or some people, some humans, it becomes a stigma, and some becomes a more like a depression mode, and they lose their confidence, and they don't know what to do and how to do. And so in that regard, and now what you see yourself moving here, what do you think that you have? It's a recovering stage that you say, and I agree. But the question is, it's not about like you can complete something in life. Even though when you start something, you just can't complete, because life is not about completion. Life is all about, I believe, to me, life is all about exploring and keep exploring.
Keep growing.
Because you don't have to be sad if you don't complete something, or this thing, or that.
That's right.
People always aim for completeness. They want completeness, which is not available. And then they also want to be pleasant every time. That is also not available, basically. So Yes, so in that mindset, in that people have got the mindset, no, I will do this and I've got conditions. I want this, that's why I'm doing this. And I don't
Mm.
want this, that's why I'm not going to do this. That's a conditional kind of living. Whereas people like who uncertainty is so common. It's the norm. Uncertainty
Yeah.
is the norm of our life journey. But
So true.
but
Yeah.
we are trying to become certain. We are trying to become immortal. We say
Mm.
that we will not perish, or we will not perish before you or after you. We
Yeah.
only identify that ourselves, and that's where our emotional well-being becomes a big stigma. That how do you deal with such mindset? So for
Mm.
you, how did you change the direction? And now that what you are trying to, what would be your one thing experience that triggers and that is still in your mind that you would like to let out so that people should not fall into that situation, or people should,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
tell me
I
some.
think I do believe from my journey around what I call it the bullying pandemic.
Mm,
Uh, I think that perpetrators and victims can lack self-esteem, and
yeah.
I think having spoken to bullies as well,
Mm,
Shailesh, and bullies are very are not happy in themselves. We know that people that bully
mm,
aren't happy with in themselves. It's a ripple effect. Maybe they're being bullied by someone else, and they're taking it out on someone else. So for me, I think, and around what you just said about the journey is the destination. Like
mm.
basically, we are on a journey, and I
Yes,
look at it like that. I I try to not look too far into the future. We don't have a crystal ball. Being
absolutely.
here right now is what it's all about. It's not easy to live in the now because we're either
Yes,
planning ahead or we're living in the past. And I've
yeah.
been totally guilty of that, especially living in the past. And
Mhm.
around thinking that I'm back where I was, and I'm realizing no, I'm streets ahead. So it's working on your self esteem and not beating yourself up, because I think as human beings we're so hard on ourselves,
Absolutely.
and there's so much comparing and competition, especially with social media
Yes.
and and our young kids. I recently talked to some lovely young girls who shared their bullying story to me, and their
Mhm.
resilience was huge because
Right.
they're learning resilience, and I
Mm,
think that's what we need to be teaching our young ones, so the next generation are coming through stronger to deal with what's out there.
absolutely.
um, so
Mm,
yeah, I would definitely say, look, it's for me, I think self-esteem is a big part of it, hugely, as to how we go along the journey of life, how we feel about ourselves.
mm.
um,
Because it
yeah,
doesn't matter what age you are in, isn't it? It doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter. No, we're all a child inside.
Yeah.
And that child can be very, and I think when you acknowledge the child, and if I get that feeling of like, oh, that, as I say, I've spoken to you before about that unsafeness
Mm,
or feeling on eggshells around a certain energy, and
mm,
I just remind myself, oh, that's the child in me. It's the
mm,
child in me needing to be nurtured and needing to be loved, and we've all got that child. And I recently spoke to some wonderful young lads in the boys brigade, and they shared their
mm.
stories. They were aged between 9 and 13, and they shared their stories around bullying after I told mine.
Yeah.
So and by sharing your story, you open up that forum for others to
Forum
speak.
conversation.
It gives that conversation. And this dear young boy said, Susie, I've actually been a bully. And I
Mm.
said, wow. I said, well, thanks for, being honest. And I
On.
said, why do you think that is? And he said, well, I think my mum and dad bully me. And so
Wow.
there and was the ripple effect, Shailesh, of
Mm.
why we have, a lot of people that scapegoat on others, that take their sadness out on others. Hurt people are hurting people. So
Mm.
once we deal with where the hurt's coming from, and try and give love and light within that, which is what I'm all about, I say I'm anti-bullying but pro-love. I think
Mm.
we replace that with a positive, again, like what we talk about, Shailesh. Yeah.
Mm. I really made good point you made that,
Mm,
person who is admitting that, okay, I was a bully, and then he's saying that I did it because my mom or dad was
mm,
bullying. Now, this is where the whole thing is like, drawing a line of whether you want to follow a pattern or you want
Yeah.
to follow someone or you want to discard everyone and make your own and
Yeah.
do something of your own or create something of your own. Now this is very easy to follow someone, easy
Yeah.
to become like an idol. You can have an idol,
Yes.
and it's easy to get into that mode of who you really are not,
Yeah.
but you want to become someone that you are not, basically.
Mm,
And
that's right.
so how did you had all these experiences from various youth and other people into that situation,
Mm,
and learning from their experiences and your experiences, sharing, as you said rightly, the communicating is the first bit of every single conversation, has to be there to come
yeah.
out of any situation. um, where do you see today, um, in the scheme of things, the world that we are living in, or the
Yeah.
system? Is it the influence? Is it the system? Is it there is something that is wrong, that is not education, or what it is that really allows kids, and kids are easy to follow someone.
Yeah.
They have their
Yeah.
role models, mom, dad, they have their role models. So whatever dad does, they will do. Whatever mom does, they will
Yeah.
do. And they think it's norm.
Absolutely.
And they
Yeah.
think it's norm. So do you think our education, or making education awareness that, okay, we know what we know, however, you are kids, but
Yeah.
you know what you know, and we will let you know everything. You can make a choice then out of it, rather than following someone or following.
Proud. Yeah.
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 How do you feel
Yeah.
about that? Like, what's your
Sure.
opinion on that?
Well, interesting that you should bring that up. I very firmly believe that we need emotional intelligence as part of our
That's
curriculum in
right.
the schools,
Yes.
because sadly to say, the world we're living in is so fast paced.
Mm.
Kids are raising themselves. Some of them, like, I'm not all of them. There's some. I'm not, and I'm
Yeah.
certainly not putting the onus on parents, because
No, no, no.
they've got a big job. Mum and dad are both working,
100%.
and so kids. Whereas I was raised, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it. We were raised that way.
Right.
And whereas kids are sort of raising themselves and learning online a lot of stuff that's not good.
No,
So
yeah.
if we could have emotional intelligence in the schools alongside reading and writing,
Mm.
we may see some
True.
change rippling through society with regards to our suicide stats alongside our bullying stats, Shailesh. And actually in 2018, a group of us went to the Beehive to
Mm.
talk to Nikki Hyde, who's no longer in Parliament now,
Mm.
about getting emotional intelligence taught in the schools. It's a slow process, but many
Mm.
schools are becoming more aware, which is a wonderful thing. We
Mm.
need that. But we've got a long way to go, sadly.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you have been speaking and in various forums and various areas, and trying to make some change and impact, which is absolutely. And do you think we need more people like you as a collaborative to raise the voice, or to make the
Yeah,
voice heard, basically?
I
That
sure do. Yeah, we do. We need, like, sometimes I'll wake up and I'm heading down to Napier on Friday to do an event around suicide prevention again.
Right.
And sometimes I think, Suzy, why are you doing what you're doing? That voice in me thinks, my own critic will say, what the hell are you doing this for? And then I remind myself of the kids that have come up to me and have told me their stories, and have appreciated that as an adult I've shared mine.
Yes.
And so I do think we need more out there sharing their stories. And look, I still, as I say, I don't, it doesn't worry me. So I've adopted a mantra. What I think of myself is more important than what others do think of me. And I think once you start reminding yourself of that, you develop a thicker skin around what others might say or think of you.
Sure.
Again, I'm a work in progress. I can easily get emotionally triggered, but I'm learning to not let it take me down. I'm learning to just sit with it and think, oh, that old chestnut, that old thing's trying to get me down. I'm going to go and replace it with something like a walk, or do something kind for myself. Yeah, I think it's self-love and self-nurture is all part of this journey. It's so important to well-being. Yeah, so sorry, long-winded answer, but yes, we do need a lot more people out there telling their stories.
Yeah. So in your journey, at this point of your journey, you have seen all the ups and downs for your own, whether it was suicidal attempt, whether it was bullying that was happened to you. Lots of things happen in your journey, and you have still moved on. You're still like keeping yourself positive. When I understand this is a recovering, every time it is recovering, it's not a complete that you can wipe it out or.
No.
So that just like that, we are born, but if we don't like our life, we try to wipe it off and by suicide and things like that. However, or harm ourselves when we don't like ourselves. For you, what is the key, like, in this frame of your mind, that self-talk, self-awareness, or, making your own power heard by you, so that you don't follow the others and you don't follow the path that is not right in terms of the journey that you are living. How did you find yourself in that, and currently in moving forward, is that the same mindset or the frame, or you keep changing your mindset? Just like you said that we want to keep moving. So when you keep moving, obviously our thoughts and mind also keep moving. So is that the best way to feel comfortable in your own, and to make sure that whatever we're doing is for us, for yourself, and then it's easy? Is that what is really the way of life that you are living at the moment, or what is your other side of it?
Sure. Well, one thing for me is remaining fluid. Nothing remains the same. So being ready to change is a good thing. Like if we become, life's not black and white. It's so easy to become very sort of stagnant. And so being fluid and available for change within yourself, and is that personal growth as well. Like, and for me, I check in with myself. If something's not serving me well anymore, then change it. It might have worked the other day, it might have worked then, it may not work now. Being open-minded about being open-minded about change, I think, because I think if you become stagnant, and that again, sort of for me around movement, it's not good for me. I can get very unwell. And so just being open to change, and also knowing that everybody's got a story, but no one's got your story. So that's your superpower, your story. But also being open to hearing other people's stories, and not needing to compare or compete. Just think, wow, I love to hear other people's stories, because I'm open to hearing how they're going and what they're doing. I don't have all the answers for sure. I'm just wanting to live my best life, and that in itself reflects on my family, because we're such a close family that if one of us isn't well, then the whole family feels it. So yeah, it's pretty amazing, and I call it invisible. And again, I'm going to use the term illness here, Shailesh, but I focus more on wellness. Invisible illness is so common, in that whether it be emotional unwellness or physical unwellness, you may look well to the world, but inside, there's so much going on that people can't see, which is why we can't go wrong being kind. Because if you be kind, then, you could help somebody, they could be feeling low, and your kindness could help them. So,
yeah, as you said rightly, it's invisible. And illness is, you can't just, only physical illness people can see, but really the pain is inside.
Pain is invisible.
Pain is invisible. And trauma is invisible. So you don't know what you are dealing with. You may look really happy, but then inside you are struggling with all sorts, with your own battle inside. And so,
absolutely. I recently, and I'm only still coming through a flare-up myself at the moment. So I have been last couple of days not well with this glitch, and I've done my walk. I get up, I do my walk, even if I'm not well. I make sure I do, unless I'm really, really crook with it. It's like you get like a flu-like symptom from this particular glitch as well, this ankylosing spondylitis. So I'm aware that even at this moment, talking to you, I'm not 100%, but to you, I may look it. But also what I love about this is it doesn't stop me living my best life. I'm determined to do the best I can. And then if I could at least know I've done my very best,
And I think that's what is the message, I guess, to all the listeners who are listening. Our emotional well-being, if you want to keep in check with your own emotional, rather than depending on someone telling you that you are emotionally well or unwell, you are the first point of contact to understand your own well-being. And to do that, I think what you said is rightly. You may look from the outside, it's great, but inside you are having that struggle. But still keeping doing that, kill against going the pain and doing it, proving it to yourself that you did it and you are doing it, and that's the best frame and inner peace that we can get out of this. And I think this is very critical and important for an emotional well-being.
I think so, showing your vulnerability, Shailesh, showing your
showing your vulnerability,
not a weakness. Vulnerability is not a weakness. So once upon a time, if you said you weren't well, people might think, oh, you're weak or being vulnerable. But I think it's actually a positive thing to say that. We talk about it's not weak to speak, and we say it's okay to say you're not okay. We want we want the stigma around people feeling they have to suffer in silence to leave. We want people to talk about it,
Yeah, absolutely right. And if I say this, what would you say? Like emotions are very powerful, but emotions are your strength. But unfortunate part is 90% of me, I don't know, most of the people that I've come across, they emotionally get so much down and they don't want to do anything. So for them, emotions are weakness rather than strength.
That's right.
I think that emotions is very powerful and it is a strength and not a weakness. So treat emotions as a strength, not as a weakness. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree, because thoughts are things. Again, we create what we think. So if we think something, we create it. It's like if I want to go through my life feeling sorry, nothing wrong with feeling sorry for yourself. I did feel sorry for myself when I first got unwell, but I could have stayed that way, or I could have thought, okay, you're in control. So again, but there was a lot of emotion around that, and I expressed it. So again, as you say, emotions are positive. It's how you choose to express them, and even releasing energy through emotions is a positive thing again. But you get to a stage where you realize that some things are best left unsaid around situations. They not necessarily things need to, as you say, always get sorted. Like you said, it doesn't have to always have an outcome, Yes. Again, as human beings, we expect everything to be, we're always trying to make everything like, right, or there's no such thing as,
there's no such thing as right or wrong.
That's right. Yeah. So I think just being comfortable within that is a really great lesson for me too, as just allowing and just being grateful and gratitude every day to still be alive. So grateful, Shailesh, because I nearly took my life twice. Nearly wasn't going to be here. So when you've got that low, you realize that life is so precious, Yeah.
And obviously, when you thought of ending your life, it becomes too much like those emotions at that point, where at such a lower point that they became very weak for you. Isn't it?
Well, actually, I actually hid it. I actually masked my my want to take my own life by being bubbly. So I masked it, so no one knew. I didn't have depression. It's interesting. People think if you're going to take your own life, you must be depressed.
Yeah.
So that there's so many different facets around that. And
Absolutely.
I didn't even think, I just thought the world would be better off without me. I got so low about my own self-esteem. But I also realized, for me, Shailesh, I just wanted the pain to stop in my head. And now I realize pain is a wonderful thing. It's your body telling you to listen. It's nothing to fear. It's something that we do try and mask. We do take painkillers. We do. And I'm more now where if I feel pain, it's my body saying, listen to me, Yeah.
No, that's great. A great insight, Suzy. It was wonderful to talk.
Thank you, Shailesh.
And you bring all these, uncovering all those things and reflecting in your journey and taking the positives and the outcome for all the listeners. As you can see, Suzy is come far from far, far away, but she's also has to go far, far away. So she has not stopped. The question, she has not stopped. And I appreciate absolutely, and I am really motivated that all the listeners who are listening should have some motivation around that okay, here is a person who is not just traveling at this age, who is not having physical, mental, all sorts of carrying those burden and baggages, but creating new memories is what I see, Suzy, you as. And so I will end up here with one powerful statement that I just now said, and you agreed with this. Like, when people are emotions, or they feel like suicide, or they feel like depressed, or they feel like hurting themselves, I only say one thing. Emotions are powerful to become stronger, not weaker. So use your emotions to be truthful to yourself, as you can hide something from others, humans, but you can't hide from yourself. So it's my reflection of my own, that when I see this, I know that emotions are stronger and powerful. Why we should treat them as weak? Why we should let them control us? We have got the power to control every single aspect of our journey. Just as you rightly said, that it's a choice that you make. You got everything. So now with that, I really appreciate once again. And finally, just give to our listeners, and I would love to bring you back, Suzy, for some day and some other topic, which is always good to and a pleasure to talk to you. So I would like to leave it here and ask you to just give a final message of you, that this life journey is so precious, as you said. That who else can tell you, who wanted to take this life away from yourself? And you can say this very confidently, that life is precious, so don't lose it. So what's your message to the audiences, in your final message, that they can take away from this whole conversation that we had today?
Sure. Again, the correlation of mind, body, and soul regarding emotions, what you talked about, Shailesh. So if you're dealing with pain, talk about it. Don't suffer in silence. For me, the biggest thing was asking for help. It's not weak to speak. We're human beings. We're all on a journey together. There's always going to be potholes along the road. It's just, we may fall into them. We don't have to stay in it too long. We just know that there's hope. Always hope if you talk about it.
Absolutely. So we leave this to the audiences. What Suzy said very rightly, we all thrive on one word: hope. And our journey is all about, even though it is uncertain, even though you may feel that I didn't get this, do this, but there is a hope to get everything, to do everything, to create everything. There is a hope. So with that, I really appreciate Suzy once again for her beautiful message.
Thank you.
Word hope.
Thank you, Shailesh.
And I look forward to have more meetings with you in the future with all the other different critical topics that our well-being is really depend on, basically. So
fantastic.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Suzy.
Thank you, Shailesh. Thanks.